I'll say, oh, I love it. Thank you, Joseph, for having your eyes on me. He has his name on his desk. Thank you so much for having your eyes on me so we can get started. Oh, another Joseph. Joseph, I'm flanked by Josephs. Joseph on either side. I am Mrs. Burton, and I am an instructional coach. And I know you have coaches here, and sometimes when you hear that word coach, we think sports. But I am not. It has nothing to do with sports. Really, I'm a teacher, and I get to work with amazing teachers like yours. And here's what we do. We figure out the best way to teach reading and writing and math. And so today we're going to be working on and talking about how we can get smarter and thinking about our teaching with reading and learning with our reading and using reading strategies. So can we do some reading work together today?
Sure.
Yeah? Thank you. I appreciate it. So we're going to dig in. And first of all, I kind of want you to think about the strategy we're going to use today. And this is something, I'm sure it's not going to be new for you, but there's going to be parts to it. I want to take it to the next level. So when we think about reading and reading specifically nonfiction text, we're really paying attention to new learning and this inner voice we have. Have you heard of that language, inner voice, before? That when we're reading, like we have, because did you guys know reading is thinking? That when we're reading, you're thinking. And that we have this inner voice when we're reading that says, oh my gosh, I never knew that. Or wow. And so it's paying attention to that inner voice because here's the deal. Sometimes our inner voice is thinking about recess or lunch or what you're doing after school. And so it's really important for us to pay attention and notice, oh, is my inner voice paying attention to the reading work I'm doing? Or am I kind of thinking about recess, lunch after school? Because then it allows us to get back on track. And so today we're going to pay attention to that inner voice, and we're going to leave tracks of our thinking on Post-its. We're going to write down our thinking on Post-its. And here's the purpose of why we do that. The purpose of, we want to write down just enough to hold our thinking and kind of leave tracks of our thinking as we go. We don't have to write a whole novel on here, but we do have to write enough and include enough detail so we can remember what our thinking was about. Because here's the thing researchers have proven when they've done brain research. They go back, scientists know that when we go back and we talk about our thinking goes deeper and we learn more. And so that's something I want us to kind of think about today and focus on. When we leave tracks of our thinking, how can we leave detail? And so today, I can listen to my inner voice as I read nonfiction text for new information. So we're going to be looking for new information today. And I'm going to show you what that looks like first. I'm going to model a little bit. You're going to get a chance to practice together with the same text. And then you'll have a chance to do it in your own text. And so when we model, when we have new thinking, new learning, we can write it on a Post-it. And here's what I want us to do. I want us to code that Post-it with an L. What are we going to code the Post-it with? Awesome. Good. And so can we read this together? I can't hear you. I can listen to my inner voice as I read nonfiction text for new information. And here's how we're going to do that. So we kind of have, this is what's going to help us add detail. We're going to use a variety, that means lots of different sentence stems to add detail to our thinking. So when you come across new learning, I think a lot of times, especially sometimes I work with younger students, they only say this. They just say, oh, I didn't know, I didn't know, I didn't know. Our hope for you today is that you're going to lift the level of your responses and your thinking for new learning. You might say, oh, I was surprised that. Or when you're reading along, you may say, that's fascinating, that. Or I love this one too, I can't believe. So when you come across new learning, what's your response to it? Because this allows us to not just list a boring list of facts, but what's your thinking about that new learning? So that's the strategy work we're doing today. And I picked a great text. I love this text. I've used it a couple times now. And it's about climate change and global warming. But it has a little twist to it. How we know what we know about our changing climate. Scientists and kids explore global warming. So I kind of like that kids are involved, right? So I'm thinking there's going to be some research in here kids are doing. But I'm just kind of curious, what's our background knowledge? What do we already know? Because in order to identify new learning, what do we already know about climate change and global warming? What are you thinking? You already have an idea?
We know it's on a mountain and what it's going to be about.
Oh, so maybe there's climate change kind of happens in the polar regions where there's these mountains. Here's what I want you to do. Because I know we have a lot of background knowledge probably about this. I know through school you've been learning about this. Turn and talk. What do you know about climate change and global warming? Go ahead and turn and talk to the person next to you. Say, I know that.
What do you know?
Hi. No, keep talking. I'm just listening. Go ahead.
The weather?
Yeah. Oh. Keep talking. Just ignore me. I'm just listening. Oh, sorry. Okay. Here's what was interesting. Oh, thanks for turning your eyes on me. Because you know what? I know you guys are 7th graders, and so when I start talking, I love it how when one person's talking, like we kind of all come back and pay attention. And so I love it. Giorgio, he right away shared his thinking. Thank you so much. But here's the thing. When I kind of just listened in just a little bit, we all have a lot of different background knowledge, actually, about climate change and global warming. So actually, I'm kind of thinking this is probably a good text for us to read. We also, while we're reading, we might get some new information here. But actually, what I love about this text is that when you look at the table of contents, and is the iPad what I need the code. What's the code for the? Whose iPad is it? Oh, perfect. I'll let you come get that started. So when you look at the table of contents, it's kind of grouped all this different information. And the first subheading of all these sections are section 1, where we find clues about climate change. So I love it. All these passages and all these chapters are about clues you find around the world about climate change. I'm like, ooh, that's interesting, right? And then I'm looking around, and here's one, like clues from the tropical rainforest. And here's the thing, you know what? Like, I already kind of know, I feel like I've read a lot about climate change and the rainforest, like how, you know, if the earth gets too cool, it's not good for the trees. And, you know, so I feel like I've read a lot about that. So that didn't necessarily pique my interest. But here's the cool thing about nonfiction text is that we can kind of choose. We don't have to start at the beginning. That we can find what's most interesting to us or what's connected to what we're learning as a class. And so when I looked down a little bit, I found this section called Changing Evidence from the Ocean Conveyor Belt. Ooh, I thought, that's interesting. So there's what this is telling me, there are clues in the ocean about global climate change and global warming. I want to know more about that. And then I'm also thinking, this whole conveyor belt thing, I'm intrigued by that. Like, what are they talking about? And so then I'm kind of trying to picture a conveyor belt in my head. And so I know that, like, when you go to the grocery store, I know, like, when I go buy apples, oh, maybe I should make apples red. That would make sense, wouldn't it? When I go buy apples from the store, I have a bag of apples, and I might put them on the conveyor belt, right, when I go to check out. And it's kind of this black belt, right, and that counter that keeps moving. Can you guys picture a conveyor belt in your head that when you put the apples on there, they kind of go down the conveyor belt? And then they land in this metal tray. But what happens to the conveyor belt? Because it's a belt. So it keeps going where? A conveyor belt is something that keeps going around. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not exactly sure how a conveyor belt is in the ocean and gives us clues about global warming, but I'm thinking that I'm going to get some new learning about that. So here's what I want you to do. As I start reading a little bit, I want you to pay attention and notice how I identify my new learning, okay? And here's the other thing. Because we're all learning together with the teachers, there might be times when I push the pause button, and so that I might talk to the other teachers, and I might, because it basically, I might share what we're noticing, or maybe because we're making a decision about where to go next, and so I might kind of push the pause button to talk to them. And you can either freeze, I have like younger students like freeze, or you can kind of turn and talk quietly to yourselves. But when I come back talking, we'll come together. So actually, I'm going to kind of try that right now. I'm going to push the pause. So is it? Oh, it is. It's working. There we go.
It does, but it's not.
Okay. Actually, it's okay because so actually, I'm going to push the pause button. So teachers, we had kind of talked about this. I think it's actually, especially looking at our time, knowing that they're done at, are they done at 10:10? At 10. So I'm actually going to make my model very short. I might just model a couple places, which I'm kind of bummed because there's a couple places in this article where it's just fascinating to me. There was so much new learning for me, but here's what I have to realize. It's not about my learning, it's about their learning. So I need to release them as quickly as I can so they can begin to kind of do this work and let them enjoy this article. So I'm already kind of trying to tell myself I need to let go and trust them. All right, I'm going to come back. So the article, so here's the thing, guys. So I know the dot camera isn't working, and so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read this article, or this passage. It's really, the neat thing I loved about this too, it's just a couple pages long. So I'm just going to read a little bit, and I'm going to model for you, and that means I want you to watch and notice how I listen to my inner voice and notice new learning. But there's a couple other things that are going to happen. So I'm going to mark down when I have new learning with an L. But there's a couple other things I'm going to mark and notice. I'm going to notice if I have background knowledge. I'm not going to write that down, though. I'm just going to mention it. And so teachers, that's another thing I just thought of right now. I could be writing all this on Post-its, but I'm also thinking right now that will take too long. So what I really, because the strategy that we're highlighting is new learning, that's what I'm going to spend time writing on Post-its. So I'm back. Boys and girls, the other thing that happens sometimes when we have new learning, let me find another color. We have questions. And so those, you know what, because those are important, I might write those down, we'll see. Or I might just share them. But for sure on Post-its today, I'm going to model for you how I write down my new learning. And I think questions too, because that's something when you go off, when you have a chance to do this, I'm going to want you to notice your new learning and write it down. And for sure notice those questions. And you may want to write down if you have background knowledge. If you think it's important to mention that or write that down, I'm going to leave that to you to do that. I did when I was reading this article first. So let's go ahead and start reading a little bit. Changing evidence from the ocean conveyor belt. I better grab my Post-its and bring them with me. Since long ago, people sailing the seas have been aware of currents or rivers of water in the ocean that move in predictable ways. Oh, that's interesting. So I have some background knowledge about currents. I know there's currents in water, right? Water is moving and that's a current. Like, have you ever seen Nemo? Raise your hand if you've seen Nemo. Right? Can you picture the turtle? I forgot his name. Yeah, he's riding the current, right? That goes kind of going around the oceans and around the world. So I can picture that. I know that. One of them, so since long ago, people have been sailing the seas and noticing and studying these currents. One of them was Benjamin Franklin, who recorded water temperatures as he crossed the Atlantic. Oh my gosh. Now that's an interesting picture to me. I'm trying not to get my back to the camera. That's an interesting picture to me. Ben Franklin? Do you kind of have some background knowledge about Benjamin Franklin and who he is? Because I'm going to tell you, I have a hard time picturing the dude who has like these little spectacle glasses and knickers, those short pants, and I picture him kind of holding a kite, kind of right with the lightning, catching the kite, because he was known for like studying electricity and things. So I have a hard time picturing this guy with his spectacle glasses leaning over the side of a boat measuring the ocean temperatures. I never knew that about Ben Franklin. So you know what that is for me? What is it? New learning. What am I going to put on my Post-it? An L. So I'm going to go ahead and write down that new learning. And you know what? I'm going to try to push my thinking. Rather than just saying I never knew, I think it really surprised me. So I'm going to say, I was surprised. And then rather than even writing complete sentences, remember I said, I want to write just enough to hold my thinking. I'm going to put Ben Franklin, measures ocean temps. Now this is a nice book. I can't write right in this book, so I had to do it on a Post-it. I'm just going to stick that over here because I'm right next to that. So that was my new learning. I'm going to keep going. And so teachers, I'm even thinking I might just model twice. We'll see. I'm going to keep going here. Well, it'll be interesting. So teachers, too, looking at my next model, I felt like it wasn't as a significant idea. The third one really is talking about the conveyor belt. So I think it'll be interesting to release that to them, and we'll see what they do with it, you know? Okay, so I'm going to keep reading. Scientists, one of them was Ben Franklin, who recorded the temperatures of the Atlantic Ocean. Franklin even mapped, so he kind of drew out on a map the Gulf Stream, the great warm current that flows from the Gulf of Mexico northeast along the coast of the United States and Canada to Europe. So now here's the trick. I know this is a little map. You're going to have to picture, can you picture Mexico? And can you picture the Atlantic Ocean in between that and Europe? Can you kind of picture that? Because I don't, and this is what happens when we read. Actually, I was kind of thinking I wanted a globe, because we had that yesterday, but I'm kind of thinking I want a model. This is what really happens when we're reading. We don't always have a globe right at our side. So I'm wanting them, what's a strategy that they can do as a real reader? So can you picture that? Mexico, kind of down here. I picture Europe over here, and so he mapped how that stream went from Mexico up along the United States over to Europe. Scientists discovered that when the warm Gulf Stream reaches the North Atlantic, it gives up heat, which is very important to weather and climate. Well, that's interesting. That's very interesting. So as this current goes from Mexico, where it's warm, up north, it's giving off heat. And you know what? I just had some new learning yesterday, actually. I was talking with some other teachers. And you know what I learned yesterday, too? And I'm remembering this now. So it's kind of some background knowledge mixed with new learning. But I guess that's how I'm merging my background knowledge with new learning. So the fact that these currents, and it's really the Gulf Stream, because I want to label that. I think that might be important to remember. It's the Gulf Stream. Gives off heat. That's interesting to me. But this is the part where I want to add some more detail. Why is that important? Why is that significant? Because when I think about it, so this is what I learned yesterday. So this is where I'm kind of merging this with some background knowledge. The teacher yesterday was saying that, you know what? It's not like it gives off so much heat, it's like a sauna. It gives off just enough heat so that right there where it goes to, Ireland is warmer and doesn't really get snow. But further inland in Europe, they get lots of snow. So that Gulf Stream changes the temperature in Ireland. The warm water, that heat goes up north and actually changes the temperature of the land. That's what I want to write down. Warm water, it changes temperature of land. Because that's why that's important. Changes temp of land. I think that's important. And this is what I'm talking about, adding detail. Why is it important? We want to add that. So here's what we're going to do. I have this article for you, so I took off my Post-it. And sometimes what I do with my Post-its, especially in a book, I stick it on the edge. I like it to stick out because I want to go back and find those. So I have this article for you. We're going to read, and here's the teacher. Actually, I'm going to make a decision. So teachers, we have a decision to make. Just thinking about the time, and right, this is the reality. Time is always of the essence. So we have a choice. For that independent practice, we can have them practice a little bit with that article. Or now we could kind of give them their own articles and have them continue reading. And I'm kind of thinking, knowing that my goal, it's so important for them to be reading independently in their own texts. And the purpose of this today's lesson was not delivering content. My purpose is not to get them into that conveyor belt and all that business. It's not to learn that. If it was, that might be a different story. But so actually right now in my thinking, I'm thinking out loud, I'm making the decision. Right now, I did just enough modeling to show them what it looks like, except my books upside down, to model new learning and how we add, that detail. I want to send them off. And we have a few minutes. We have a good 10 minutes that we can actually see. They can begin to do this in the articles I have. So boys and girls, here's what I brought for you. So I was showing you what actually, turn and talk at your table real quick. What did you notice? And this is where I want them reflecting on the process. What did you notice that I did today to highlight new learning? Share things. Go ahead and talk at your table. What are things you saw me doing? What are things you guys saw me doing? I put sticky notes. What else did I recorded stuff on them. Tell me more. Oh, sorry, they're going to yell at me. So I put sticky notes. What else did you say? Say it again.
You put questions on the...
Oh, if I have a question, I might have put that. I didn't right there, but I could have. What else did I do?
Recording interesting notes.
There you go. To say that again?
Recording interesting...
Awesome. Keep talking. What else did I do? What did you see me do? What are things you guys saw me doing? What are things you guys saw me doing? What did you see me do? Say it again.
Took notes. You use sticky notes.
What did you see me doing here? What do you see? Oh, it's okay. That's all right. What else did you see me do?
You wrote down stuff.
What?
You wrote down stuff.
Wrote down stuff. What kind of stuff? Tell me more about that.
Information.
Tell me more about that.
You wrote down information from the story.
And what kind of information? What did I write up there in black under by details?
Important.
Yeah, I think that's a piece I want us to remember. Thank you, Eric, so much. All right, come back together. It's interesting going around listening to you. I heard Eric noticed that, and a lot of you did. I used Post-its. I wrote down information. But Eric, I kept pushing Eric's thinking, right? Eric, I said, tell me more about that. You wrote down information. I said, what kind? He noticed I wrote down important information. I merged my thinking with what I already knew, why it was important. Awesome. So you're going to work in partnerships. You're going to have an article. Now, the nice thing is that you can actually write on the article. So if you have new learning, if you can hear my voice, thumbs up. If you can hear my voice, sideways thumb. If you have new learning, you can put an L on the side and underline it. If this is background knowledge, you could even put BK and underline it. I'm going to show you mine. Let me see. I think this is working now.
We need your passcode again, Ms. Cadet.
If you have a question, underline it and put a question. So you're going to work with the person right next to you. And actually, I think you two, if you two could be partners, you are going to get 2 articles. You get to choose. Your partner will choose one. You will choose the other. And, where's the teacher? Miss Terry. Miss Terry, you have those other articles that we'll need, Miss Terry? She's not listening to me. So you guys get to choose, and you can start reading and get started. You guys get to choose. Start reading and get started. You guys can choose. Pick one. Each of you pick one. Each of you pick one and get started. Are you guys partners? Awesome. Each of you pick one. You took your own notes? Did you get new learning from the book? Do you want to read that article? I'll get it for you. Well, it's up to you. If you want it, let me know. You all want that article? Yeah. Absolutely. You like it?
Yeah.
Awesome. I see how you guys are too. I love it. I'm going to ask the teacher if... Oh, no, it's all right. Just ask the teacher if we want to swap out any of those. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Swap out any of them for the other texts that we copied. Do you have them? We might not need them. All right, well, I might have left them on the room. Okay. All right, and you guys get to pick. And you know what, then you get to pick of these two, which one do you want? So I'm going to give you 2. Can you tell me which one you want? Do you want global warming could damage the world agriculture, Or do you want how the youth brings lawsuits against the government about climate change? Yeah. You could pick this one too. They chose this one over here, the one I was reading. Which one you want? I'm going to count to 3, otherwise I'm going to give you one. All right. Here you go. Here you go. Awesome.
Oh wait, I got the one I picked. That's smart. No. I don't want it.
One last thing. I see some of you have already gotten started. You're reading. You're working in. So here's the thing I'd like you to do first. We're not going to. Oh, I'll wait. All eyes on me. Thank you so much, William. Thank you, Eric. I need every single eye on me so you know what to do. Awesome. Joseph, thank you for having your eyes on me. Other Joseph, thank you for having your eyes on me. So here's what I need you to do. Read the article quietly to yourself first. You will not be able to finish the article. That's okay. Mark it up with your new learning. I'll let you know when we stop, and we're just going to share our thinking with our partners. Any questions? What are you going to do right now? How are you going to read? And then when I let you know, what are you going to do? Share your new learning with your partner. Go. And so teachers will give them a minute just to read quietly and get started. Hi, I'm Jen Burton.
Oh, hi. Lisa Smith. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Well, great. Are you here at Brentwood too, or are you in a
No,
different?
ma'am.
Oh,
That's Garcia.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm sorry we were
Oh my
late.
gosh,
They
don't
didn't
worry.
tell us we had to be here until the end of
Oh,
first
that's
period.
lovely.
They're like, surprise, take off. Oh,
I'm
all right.
sorry. Oh my God, I'm so
Let
sorry.
me get myself figuring out what we're doing.
Oh, and I'm talking on the. If you have new learning, mark it down. You're reading quietly to yourself.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How does a know is
Learning or not?
What?
How am I supposed to know it's learning or not?
Well, so if you read it and say, gosh, I never knew that, go ahead and underline it and put an L. So is there anything here that's new for you? Like even I look at this title, Youth Brings Lawsuits to Push Governments to Helping Stop Climate Change. Like, here's the thing, I didn't know that youth are suing the government. Is that crazy? So for me, I would underline that. I would underline youth bring lawsuits and I would put an L. If that's what I would do. So if you that's new learning for you, you could do that too. Do you want to read a little bit together? Do you want to do a little bit together and try it together? Yeah. Okay, let's see. So dozens of young people want a say in the planet's future. To make their voices heard, these young people, though not old enough to vote, have been suing states. Did you know that already? Let's underline it. Go ahead and underline it. So let's put suing states. And then over here put an L with a circle. So there we go. That's how it works, right? And then if you have more thinking about it, you could always jot that down. But for now, let's just do this. So they've been suing states and the federal government. That seems important too. Should we underline that? Suing states and the federal government. I want to remember that. To force action on climate change. You know what this is making me think? Like are they like activists? They're wanting to like save the world. Do you think that's why they're doing it? I would even write that. Let's write that right here. To save the world. Awesome. So you keep going, and when you have new learning, if it's something you didn't know, underline it and mark it. Oh, this is an interesting one, isn't it? On how global warming can change agriculture. What do you think that means? Is that like, what is it talking about? Did you read a little bit of this? Is it talking about, what is agriculture? How it affects what?
Their crops and everything
Yeah, their crops and the farming.
when they farm.
So do you have any new learning yet? What did you discover? Well, already you know that, global warming, have you found out anything? Does global warming impact crops and agriculture?
Yes.
Where did you find that? Can you point to a place?
Often their crops would be ruined.
Underline that. And then put an L on the side. And that's your new learning. What seems important about that?
Like global warming, it can like damage their crops for them, and
Write that down. Global warming can damage their crops. Awesome. Awesome. Joseph, thank you. And teachers, here's what I'm thinking. I know we wanted to see the share circle. I don't think we're going to have time for the share circle. So I apologize. We can talk through it more. And, oh, yeah. Wonderful. You'll do it. So I'm just going to do the highlight and share. So, Joseph, can we show the class kind of what you did, how you pushed your thinking? Yes. Okay. I know he would. All right, guys. Eyes on me for a quick minute. I know you didn't have enough time to really dig into this article. Thank you so much for having your eyes on me. Thank you for having your eyes on me. Oh my gosh, I know we can't, who's it? I forgot her name. She wasn't sure how to get started, and now we can't even stop Tammy from writing down all her new learning. Look at her go. Tammy, I'm so proud of you. Tammy, do you want to tell us, in a minute I'm going to come back to you. I want to know, was this helpful to you as a reader, the strategy of identifying new learning? But Joseph, what he did something where he identified some new learning, but then you pushed your thinking, Joseph, by asking what? Because what was the new learning? That often crops can be ruined by climate change. And so that was new learning for you. And then what did we ask? We said, why is that?
about what are they?
What did we ask? We said, why is that? Everybody? We asked, why is that important? And what did you say?
Global warming can damage their crops.
That seems important. So we put an L, and he circled it, and he put his thinking. Turn and talk right now. We literally have about 30 seconds. Find new learning that was important to you. Share that new learning that you underlined, and tell why it was important. Go. Can you go find some new learning that you had, that you underlined? Turn and talk and tell your partner your new learning. Oh, cool. All right, so tell your partner. Actually, you might want to ask, Albert, can you say, so what'd you learn?
They would be given money if their crops are destroyed.
And then you could say, why do you think that's important?
Why do you think that's important?
Because so they could pay for more seeds to grow their crops.
And then what can you say to him?
What do you think, what was important?
Or could you, because his learning, right? So what did you learn?
What did you learn?
Do you have something on the other page that you underlined? No? So you didn't have any yet. You know what, Albert, you're teaching us something important. That sometimes we read, we might know a lot about something. We might not have new learning yet. And that's okay. Okay, come back together. Actually, Maya and Albert, I want you guys to teach the class what you just did. Eyes on me. If you can hear my voice, thumbs up. If you can hear my voice, sideways thumbs. So what Maya and Albert just did, they actually, because I could tell when I said, okay, turn and talk and tell your partner. And here's what I heard. Nothing. It was like crickets. Chirp, 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 chirp. But here's what I realized. Sometimes we need some language to do that. And so, Maya, what did you say to Albert? You said, Albert started. Albert, you said to Maya, say, what did you learn?
What did you learn?
So he asked Maya, said, what did you learn? And then Maya, you said?
They would be given money if their crops are destroyed.
Albert asked the all-important question. What did you ask, Albert?
Why is that important?
And Maya said?
Because they would be given money to buy more seeds to grow their crops.
Now, we didn't stop there. Maya, what did you say to Albert?
What did you think was important?
Because she wanted to know what he thought about her thinking. And what did you think about that, Albert? What did you think about this whole thing about money and crops? And do you agree?
Yes,
Yeah, why?
because there's just the climate is destroying their crops and they shouldn't do that.
Because the climate's destroying the crop. That seems important. That might impact life, right, for animals and people. But then we didn't stop there. Maya, you said to him, say, what did you learn?
What did you learn?
And Albert's like, he didn't underline anything yet. And here's the thing Albert teaches us. Sometimes we're reading along and we may not have new learning yet. especially if we have a lot of background knowledge. So that's okay. So we need to find a topic. Like I picked a topic that I didn't know a lot about because I wanted to learn more. These guys in the back, I loved it. They're like, you know what? We really want to read more about that article you had. I said, sure. I gave them that article. Did you like that? Having choice? You got a lot of good ideas? I know we're almost out. Say it again. What? Say it again.
We want to know who helped Benjamin Franklin do the temperatures.
Who helped him? Yeah. And what? I heard and. There's more. And what?
Ooh.
It's okay. Time is up. But here's the thing. What I love about you guys, you were passionate about your learning. They're taking charge of their learning. I hope today that you can do that and realize not just in this text, but this is important. Whenever you're reading, take charge of your learning. Think about what is my new learning? And for do that, you have to think about what do I already know? And maybe what questions you have. You came up with a question. Who helped Ben Franklin with that? Awesome. So what do we, we need to collect these texts. So if you could pass those articles forward, and then I'm going to turn you over to your teacher.